Thank you so much for your kind participation in today's Swadhyaya Chakra dialogue. And today is a very special day because today is a 162 birth anniversary of Rabindranath Tagore, whose poetry and whose imagination shaped 20th and 21st century India and world. And he was the first non-European to be awarded a Nobel Prize. So we remember him. On Swadhyaya Chakra dialogue, today we are going to remember the work of Dr. Arun Gandhi. And the topic that we have chosen to discuss is living non-violence, being the discussion on. We'll discuss about his work and his engagement with Gandhian studies. It is a great pleasure to welcome respected speakers of today's session, Dr. Christian Bartolf, who is very well known for our circle. He is currently nurturing Gandhian Information Center, Germany. I welcome Dr. Douglas Selen, Professor of Philosophy from Department of Philosophy from University of Miami, Oreno, USA. I welcome Professor Kumar Giri, Honorary Trustee of Vishwaneedam Center for Asian Philosophy and a Professor of Madras Institute of Development Studies, Chennai. I welcome Dr. Gyan, Romaya Samayaji, Professor Mohanty, Miniti Pradhanji, and all friends. I also welcome Shri Kaushal Kishoreji. Let me give a brief introduction to our circle. Swadhyaya Chakra Circle is a part of Vishwaneedam Center for Asian Philosophy, which is a public intellectual trust. And we nurture weekly dialogue on every Sunday or sometimes on Wednesday. And we cultivate the idea of Maharishi Aurobindo, Mahatma Gandhi, and Chittaranjan Das, a creative soul from Orissa, and many others around the world. We also present our own writing and reflect upon our creativity. So thank you so much for joining today's Swadhyaya Chakra dialogue. To initiate the dialogue, I would like to welcome Professor Anant Kumar Giri. Yes.
Thank you so much, dear Randhir, dear Christian, Minati, Professor Mohanty, all friends co-present. So on this day of birthday of Rabindranath Tagore, and as we feel Arun Gandhi, so dear and creative Gandhi. So we offer ourselves to being with Arun Gandhi in a spirit of the living flow of non-violence. And Arun Gandhi was a creative person. And from his book, The Gift of Anger, the glimpse of Arun Gandhi we get is inspiring. At a young age, when he writes that he walked under the heat from the train station in Wardha to Sevagram, because he gave a word to his father that he would start walking, and his sister was on the Tonga. And that sense of determination, which has continued throughout his life, a sense of loving and fearless determination. Another very important evidence of that is the stance he took on Palestine. And he wrote an article in Washington Aid on faith, and he said that how, the state of Israel and American society, they are abusing the legacy of Holocaust, and they are not careful, they are not attentive to the plight of the Palestinians. And to take a stance is so important, and he could do that in the USA. And my friend Christian can read how strong the Jewish lobby is in the USA. And he has said, Arun Gandhi said, that the plight of the Palestinians is worse than the plight of the Afro-Americans, the blacks in the USA. So that sense of courage, and he shares of his to a representative from South Africa, Mr. Vanson, and his wife. And Mr. Preston shared his request to Arun Gandhi that if he could help him see the city. And Arun Gandhi was a bit angry, but he remembered his grandfather's advice how to use anger intelligently, and he said that the apartheid regime has not helped both Gandhi and his wife Shri to come back to South Africa, but still he met them. He was with them. He and his wife were the visiting couple. And once this Mr. Banson goes back to South Africa, and then he protested against apartheid, he was thrown out of the party. So these acts of courage and communication are deeply inspiring, and we join Arun Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi in this active flow of non-violence. And so important that in living the flow of non-violence, we do not have to be apologetic about anger and how anger has to be used intelligently. Because the kind of portrait of Gandhi that is produced is a portrait of a senseless Gandhi, like a rock, like a stone, and who is just sweeping, holding a brush, a broom in his hand, and just sweeping the streets. This is not the only Gandhi that we should remember. We should remember the angry Gandhi, the loving, angry Gandhi who fought against indignity and domination. And Arun Gandhi's book, The Gift of Anger, is a challenge all of us that first of all to be angry with systems of humiliation that are still tormenting us. And these humiliations are not just external, they're also inner. That means the inner structures of humiliation that we are subjecting ourselves and we are subjecting others to, we should also be angry with ourselves. But this kind of anger is what can be called as luminous anger, an anger with love or a loving anger. So we feel the presence of Gandhi, Arun Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, and also Tagore. And being with Tagore today and the conversation that Gandhi and Tagore had between themselves, they challenged each other, they confronted each other with love. So on this day, let us be with Arun Gandhi and his immortal flow of love and anger by practicing luminous anger and loving anger and a kind of compassionate confrontation, so that we can transform self, society, culture, and the world. Thank you. And now we join our continued conversations in the evening.
Thank you, Ananta Bhai, as always. And the kind of imagination that Dr. Arun Gandhi brought us, particularly what would be the kind of reflexivity of Gandhian thought, the way he connected with his experience with larger audience regarding what Gandhi believes, at least for a youth and children. It was Arun Gandhi with his lectures in America, who kind of identify that children can also be the seeds of transformation or change bearer. So contribution subsequently to a better and a deeper understanding of Gandhi's philosophy of non-violence, which not only offers a positive way of conflict resolution, but also takes along to a road of sadhana, to road of personal transformation with tapasya and struggle, so that our existence may contribute to making this society a better place for future generation. So that is some kind of contribution that we should understand and remember and also cultivate in some sense. So we invite Dr. Christian Bartolf. Dr. Christian Bartolf he established in 1990 the Gandhi Information Center. If you want to see the complete work of Gandhi and related work, you can follow him social media platform also, where he continuously shares information related to Gandhian studies. And that center has more than 100 members, home and abroad. Dr. Arun Gandhi, member Gandhian Information Center, so he knows personally. So I request Dr. Christian Bartolf to share his reflections on the topic.
Thank you, Randhir. I was asked by you to speak about 20 to 30 minutes maximum, so I try to be concise.
You can take 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
Thank you. But actually, it is a second commemoration event for Arun Gandhi today for me. And I just had the great experience to listen to some of his contemporaries who spoke about personal experiences with him. Now, I would like you to introduce Arun Gandhi as a educator, a teacher somehow, because he tried to communicate and explain the principles of his father in a simple language and in such a way that everybody can understand. And during our only phone call we had in 1999, when he spoke with me about the future challenges of the next century, I recommended him to write a book about his father, grandfather, of course his father too, Manilal Gandhi, the editor of Indian Opinion, the follower of his father, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, in a Phoenix settlement. But I want you to be aware of this great gift he left to us as a legacy. And this is the final title of this meeting. It's the legacy of at least 3 books which he left us, but one might be of major interest for those readers. And dear Ananta was referring to this book. It is called The Gift of Anger, published in 2017. But here we have the 2018 Penguin book edition. It's called The Gift, and it's a real gift, a legacy for us. It's a pocket book. So it's a book which can be even used during travels. You can read each of these chapters, giving advice how to explain his grandfather's message. And I first want to share to you the title, Lessons from My Grandfather. Lesson 1, use anger for good. This is the title, which refers to the principle of non-retaliation, no retaliation of evil by evil. So channel your anger like electricity for good purposes, not for destruction. Second, don't be afraid to speak up. He refers to the courageous sister, Ila Gandhi, who spoke up against her grandfather's routine because she complained there's just one meal in the ashram. And so her grandfather introduced a variety of meals, variety of vegetables served, or vegetarian dish. And Arun praises the example of his sister, young sister, who spoke up against Gandhi and complained. So lesson 2 is don't be afraid to speak up. Lesson 3, appreciate solitude. This is not just one day, not saying anything like on Mondays, just writing letters, not saying a word, but using this day for introspection. But it is solitude as a source of inspiration, also thinking about the roots of conflicts, the roots of evil. Before accusing someone else to be the perpetrator, but just to find out the roots of the conflict by being on your own for yourself, speaking with your conscience, letting the conscience speak to you. Lesson 4 is quite relevant, by the way, this weekend. Know your own worth, and I would like to refer to this because it is quite relevant. Then lies are clutter. Lesson 6, waste is violence. Lesson 7, practice non-violent parenting. Lesson 8, humility is strength. And he gave the example that he was accusing his government, the Indian government, to spend money on the Gandhi movie. But then he saw the movie, was very moved, and saw how well it had been done, the great masterpiece pirated Edinburgh, although it is not historically correct, as we know. And then he felt humility because he was impressed by the result of this movie. And lesson 9, the 5 pillars of nonviolence. Lesson 10 is called You Will Be Tested. This is directed to the reader. Lesson 11, lessons for today. And the epilogue is called The Greatest Joy. So first, I would like to reproduce how Arun is summarizing his grandfather's philosophy. It's, of course, a part, because during the book, you'll find a series of different explanations on Swadeshi, Swaraj, on Satyagraha. Satyagraha, he starts with, My grandfather's example of nonviolence was never meant to be passivity or weakness. In fact, he saw nonviolence as a way to make yourself morally and ethically stronger and more able to move toward the goal of bringing harmony to society. When he was just getting underway with his nonviolence campaigns, he asked people to help him find a name for his new movement, and one of his cousins suggested the Sanskrit word sadagraha, which means firmness in a good cause. Bapuji liked the word, but decided to modify it slightly to satyagraha, or firmness for truth. Later, people sometimes translated it as soul force, which powerfully reminds us that real strength comes from having the right values as we seek social transformation. What I see us all needing right now is a return to my grandfather's satyagraha, or soul force. He created a movement that led to huge political upheaval and brought self-rule to hundreds of millions of Indians. But most important, Bapuji tried to show that we can achieve our goals through love and truth, and that the greatest advances occur when we give up our distrust and look for strength in positivity and courage. And that was quite at the beginning of his book. In the end of his book, he summarizes these moral, ethical lessons because, as I told you, he communicated and explained the ethical message of his grandfather. He was not a propagandist. He was a teacher, Arun Gandhi. So he was giving many lectures. One of them I recommend to you. It is a lecture a few years ago from Spokane. I give you the link in the chat. And it is, of course, about lessons from his grandfather. And he gave that speech at Spokane Community College after violent shootings, because he always tried to reconcile the communities after violent incidents because of the gun lobby in the United States and the militia concept in the Constitution. That is the reason why Arun Gandhi's stay in the United States was also active participation in communal harmony. I would like to now summarize these quintessential message of Gandhi in the words of his grandson, because too easily we might ignore such a precious passage on the 5 pillars of nonviolence. And he wrote about these 5 pillars. My grandfather wanted people to understand the nuances of nonviolence well beyond avoiding physical aggression. He lived by the 5 pillars of nonviolence, and he wanted me to try to follow them too. So I've tried to live my life with those 5 important foundations: respect, understanding, acceptance, appreciation, compassion. I sometimes hear people say that Bapuji had a utopian vision that can't exist in the real world, but I think quite the opposite is true. The principles he set out are absolutely basic to civilization, and we ignore them at our peril. Respect and understanding of other people, whatever their religion, race, caste, or country, is the only way the world can go forward. Putting up walls and divisions always backfires in the end, leading to anger, rebellion, and violence. In contrast, When we respect and understand each other, we naturally evolve to that third pillar, acceptance. The ability to accept other views and positions allows us to grow stronger and wiser. The other two pillars of nonviolence, appreciation and compassion, help bring about personal happiness and fulfillment, as well as greater harmony in the world. Appreciation has a very deep resonance and can make a profound difference in each of our lives. The happiest people aren't those with the most money, but those who can appreciate the beauty and goodness around them. It's easy to find reasons to complain and criticize and point out what is wrong. We can give ourselves much more joy by choosing instead to look for things to appreciate every day. Bapuji was masterful at appreciating the world around him. He looked for the good in everybody. Now, I would like to give you one example of the lessons he wrote. But before doing so, just want to remind us that Dr. Arun Gandhi, when he was director of the M.K. Gandhi Institute for Nonviolence at the Christian Brothers University in Memphis, Tennessee, USA, the founder and president, signed his membership on the 15th of September 1999. This membership of our Gandhi Information Center. So he became one of the highly esteemed members of our center, international members. And I just show you the books he wrote, also as cartoon books about his grandfather, Gandhi. I just want to find out for you when it was published. I think it was a few years before The Gift. Yes, 2014. And then you have another Be the Change, a Grandfather Gandhi story. Also, you see, these books are directed to children. So he was a real educator. Yes. And this book is published in 2016, 2 years later. And then I show you, if you don't mind, the German version of his book, The Gift of Anger, which was well translated. And you see here the photo of his grandfather and him when he was young. Actually, he visited his grandfather twice, one in a very young age, and the second between 1946 and 1948, or 1945 and 1947. I do not know exactly, but during 2 years, he accompanied his grandfather. And so he shared the routines and was educated by his grandfather. And he wrote in this book, The Gift, he wrote many incidents he experienced with his grandfather. This book is particularly recommendable for all school children all over the world. Now, I think this is the legacy he left to us, to read this book of his, 2017. And the title, The Gift, was given in 2018 in the Penguin Books, 10 Spiritual Lessons for the Modern World from My Grandfather, and became a bestseller. But I would like to maybe end my small lecture by giving you one example of his a great intuition he had when he wrote in lesson 4, Know Your Own Worth. And this is quite interesting because it is appealing to all young people. And it's quite relevant after yesterday's coronation of the King of the Commonwealth Realms. You know, then I might say it is quite relevant. And so it is also a comment referring to Gandhi and his visit to London to attend the first roundtable conference organized by the British government to discuss the future of India. As always, he was wearing the hand-spun, hand-woven clothes called khadi that he encouraged as a way of helping the poorest rural farmers. Now, I want to interrupt myself. You know how Arun Gandhi called himself? A peace farmer, sowing the seeds of peace. So I continue with Arun. The khadi movement has taken hold and was beginning to have an effect on the British textile industry. Since many Indians were showing stirrings of independence by making their own khadi, the British could no longer buy all of the cotton in India at cheap prices and then sell it back as expensive machine-made clothing. The participants at the round table were invited to Buckingham Palace, and my grandfather arrived wearing his loincloth and shawl. Royal aides fretted that this wasn't proper attire to meet the king, but Bapuji just smiled and said that if King George didn't want him as he always dressed, he wouldn't attend. Reporters heard about the story and couldn't get enough of it. Gandhi to go to King's party in loincloth, blared one headline. They loved the idea that he would be walking across the crimson carpets of Buckingham Palace in khadi and well-worn sandals. King George came in wearing the daytime formal dress of a morning coat and striped trousers, while Queen Mary stood by in a shimmering silver tea gown. When he was asked if he felt underdressed wearing a loincloth in the presence of the king, Bapuji famously quipped, "The king had enough on for both of us." This showed his great sense of humor. By the way, you know that Gandhi's humor was breathtaking sometimes. So Bapuji didn't think it was wrong to want economic success. He just thought it was wrong not to lift others up with you. He didn't care about money for himself, but he was realistic and knew that his projects needed funding. So he came up with a plan. And now he described the fact that Gandhi always received 5 rupees for an autograph he gave, just to, to receive money for the benefit of the poor. And that he, the grandson, Arun, also tried to receive an autograph by his grandfather. But he tried to bring it about just to get another autograph of his grandfather. So now imagine yourself trying to get an autograph of Mahatma Gandhi. What happened to Arun? I decided I too wanted to get my grandfather's autograph, but I had no money. And I didn't know if Bapuji would make an exception for me. I told myself that because I'd been helping him a lot, there was no harm in trying. I collected pieces of colored paper, cut them to the size of an average autograph book, and stapled them together. That evening after prayers, I slipped my little untidy book into the stack I took to grandfather. Then I stood by as he began signing the books, hoping that in the rush of the moment, he wouldn't notice anything amiss. No way. Grandfather was absolutely meticulous about every dime he received. He needed money to do his work. When he came to my book and saw no money accompanying it, he paused. Why is there no money for this autograph? Because it is my book, Bapuji, and I don't have any money. He smiled. So you are trying to pull the wool over my eyes? Why do you need an autograph? Because everyone has one, I answered. Well, as you can see, everyone pays for the autograph. But Bapuji, you are my grandfather, I pleaded. I am glad to be your grandfather, but a rule is a rule. If everyone has to pay, you have to pay too. No exceptions for anyone. My ego was hurt. I wanted to be special. So I blurted out, "You'll see, Bapuji, I will make you give me an autograph for free. I'll keep trying no matter how long it takes." "Is that so?" Bapuji's eyes twinkled and he laughed. "Let's see who wins this challenge." The game was on. In the weeks that followed, I used every strategy I could think of to pester him into giving me an autograph. My favorite technique was to burst into the room when he was in meetings with high officials and world leaders and wave my book at him, asking him to sign. One day I ran into a meeting, loudly announcing that I needed his signature right then. Instead of getting angry, he pulled me to his chest, put his hand on my mouth, and kept the discussion going. The important politician he was speaking with looked stunned, not knowing what to make of our scene. I thought grandfather would give in just to keep things calm, but I should have known better than to challenge a man who had taken on the United Kingdom. Our competition continued for several weeks. One of Bapuji's high-level guests became so irritated by my interruptions that he essentially took up my cause. "Why don't you just give him the autograph so he will leave and stop annoying us?" he asked, exasperated. Bapuji wouldn't let him set the agenda for our relationship. "This is a challenge between me and my grandson," he replied calmly. "You need not get involved." Bapuji never lost his temper or ordered me out of the room. He had immense control over his anger in spite of my attempts to provoke him. On one occasion, to pacify me, he wrote "Bapu" on a slip of paper and said, "Here is your autograph." "That is not good enough," I declared. "It's all I can give," he said, with the same persistence he showed in everything. I was starting to understand his message. After a few more days, I realized that I was never going to get the autograph for free. And I finally stopped hounding him. But instead of feeling defeated, I felt proud. I knew that our little contest hadn't really been over a scrawl of ink. Instead, Bapuji was giving me a lesson in value. Since he had decided that his signature was worth 5 rupees, it should be worth that to everyone. If he gave it away to me for free, he was lessening his own value. Equally important, our challenge showed me that even if I didn't have 5 rupees, I had great value. My grandfather was willing to treat me with the same respect he paid heads of state. He didn't undermine me in front of them or treat me as a distraction. My needs were as real as theirs and as worthy of attention. So you see the dignity in the smallest, in the drop which makes the ocean, all together in the composition of so many drops, and the significance of each drop, which counts. So thank you, Arun Gandhi, for sharing wisdom and giving us your gift.
Thank you, Dr. Christian Bartolf. As always, very deep and heart-touching. Yes, Arun Gandhi always talks about the life lessons that he received from his grandfather in a very simple manner. And he himself struggled in India and United States of America and South Africa. While I was listening one interview, he was sharing a story that how He was struggling to develop Mahatma Gandhi Research Center, and the way he shared his journey was really very touching. And the way you share his story, it is like everybody stories, how we connect with the people whom we inspire. So thank you. Now I request Kaushal Kishoreji to share his reflections. Kaushal Kishoreji is a very deep scholar and touched soul, and he is a journalist, but he has a good study on Gandhi's work. Ji, Kaushal ji.
Thank you, Randhir bhai. Dr. Christian Bartolf gave us glimpses of the history of two Gandhis, and this verbatim account was so exhilarating. Thank you, Dr. Bartolf. Before I initiate what I wanted to say this evening, I would like to thank Professor Anant Giri, who has initiated his talk with what happened with Arun Gandhi in America and his observations on Holocaust. In fact, this is what compels me to think what actually Gandhi had in South Africa by the time he returned. A similar condition is there in America when Arun Gandhi returns from there. So this is my question this evening to our experts, if they want to explore a little bit more on this issue. And the other thing that I have been thinking since the beginning of this year, and I wanted to talk to this question to the family members of Mahatma Gandhi. In fact, his father, Manilal Gandhi, and Ramdas Gandhi, after the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, they wrote a letter to the government of India. It was written to Prime Minister, the Governor General C. Rajgopalachari, and Home Minister Patel. And they were against the punishment that was given to the assassins. In fact, Ramdas and Vinoba Bhave went to meet them in the jail, but the government didn't allow them. On this issue, he differs with his own father. This is the other thing from his life. In addition to these three things, there is one more thing that I would like to share about Arun, his life and works. He is trying to walk wearing the shoes or slippers, whatever you may call, of Gandhi's himself, and that he did all his life. Initially, he was born in the Phoenix settlement. That was the place where Gandhi started Indian opinion. And that was continued till his by the end of his life. And the same forces are helping him. But by the end, what happens is tragic. These are the things that I want to ask our experts if they want to enlighten us on this. I will be grateful. Randhir bhai, this is all that I wanted to say this
Thank
evening.
you. Thank you, Kausalji. Now I request Anant Kumar Giri if he can add some of his reflections more.
Thank you so much, Kaushal bhai. I seek your indulgence. Could you kindly just help with your question in one sentence, please?
Gandhiji returned from South Africa and the British African government and Gandhi had an agreement. And the condition when Arun Gandhi returns from New York on his piece of paper that you were trying to refer that was published in Washington Post. The two are similar sort of thing that I observe. Whether you think the same way, this is what I wanted to ask. Thank you.
On this particular about USA and Arun Gandhi, I do not know further. So, but your reference to Ramdas Gandhi and Vinoba trying to meet the assassin, that is very enriching. I didn't have that. I didn't know about it so far, and it's a very enriching, story to hear from you, please. And the message is that these they were trying to embody the spirit of Gandhi, a spirit of loving. It's not just forgiveness, but a sense of love that Gandhi himself embodied in not pressing charges against the assassins who were to kill him in South Africa.
Thank you, Professor Anand Giri. Now we have Professor Geeta Dharampal ji here this evening. We can call her.
Yes, he has joined, but I think right now he is not in the meeting. Okay. So while I was listening some of the lectures of Arun Gandhi, I would like to share, you mentioned how he used anger. There is a saying by Aristotle who said, anyone can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, and for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. So Gandhi is somehow, giving us a kind of art of life where anger is also needed. Listening a Dr. Arun Gandhi lecture, what I found is he was making us understand about how we can have a strong sense of purpose in life after reading or after following the path of Gandhi. And the power of our everyday choice and action. The power of dream. The power of a spiritual over material, the power of inclusivity, the power of conscience, and the importance of courage. This is conscience. It is easy to have good conscience after reading Gandhi, but Gandhi also demands conviction and courage. And how we can, because I understood and I understand Arun Gandhi's engagement with Gandhian studies, that he's not only talking about the problem of culture of violence as designed to control people through fear, but also a kind of crisis management. The way he shared his story of during his childhood, that उनके पास एक छोटा सा पेंसिल था, और वो पेंसिल को यूज नहीं किए, फेंक दिए। जब वो गांधी से नई पेंसिल ढूंढने के लिए मांगने के लिए गए, तो गांधी ने कहा कि आप पहले छोटी वाली पेंसिल को ढूंढिए। और रात में वो बच्चा उस पेंसिल को ढूंढता है, और फिर गांधी उनको 2 लेसन बताते हैं। एक कि इस अरबों आबादी, मीन्स वी हैव मिलियंस ऑफ पीपल, अगर हर इंसान इतनी छोटी छोटी पेंसिल को फेंक दे तो कितना रिसोर्सेस, कितना वेस्टेज हम क्रिएट करेंगे। In 1940s, he was talking about रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट। फिर दूसरी बात वो बताते हैं कि कितने करोड़ ऐसे बच्चे होंगे जिनके पास ये पेंसिल भी नहीं है। This story, I think, is very important for all of us to understand Gandhian quest. The importance of problem and the challenges. He also, during his lectures in America, he projected Gandhi in a very different way. Says there is a kind of significant importance of sense of humor in Gandhian personality, and that creates a kind of synergy which is able to develop a kind of charisma of Gandhi personality. So I think we need to also transcribe those lectures that are available, because there are many explanations, although we have 2-3 books. He wrote a very significant book on Kasturba Gandhi, which needs to be discussed here. And now I request also, we have so many respected participants who can share his or her experience. So I request Professor Gyan Gului to initiate.
Yes, excuse me. Yes. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. I unfortunately do not know the reflections, these reflections or these memories, and therefore I cannot express. So, of course, a personal experience to the memories of the grandson. I think personally that, well, a question which I have always is when I am analyzing something of Gandhi, that there is the tendency to consider him exclusively under the dimension of the politics. He is, in this view, a politician who do not have, or for whom the priority is anyway not so much the theories, is about the speculative theories. I have personally some doubts about this interpretation, because I think that anyway behind the practical, concrete, peculiar, specific political choices of Gandhi, there is always a background of theoretical thinking, theological thinking, for instance, thanks to his meditation on Gita, but not only this, also about the problems which, for instance, the loss of the traditional thought towards the preference for the technical components of the contemporary world. For instance, also this point is very important. That is, I think that I do not agree at all with all those who say, as regards the positions of Gandhi, these are specific, these are always so limited to this or that component, but not that those reflections of a theoretical thinker. I would say it is the other way around. That is, he has practical recipes for practical problems, for specific problems, insofar as and in as much as he has already meditated previously about a general interpretation of society, of the humanity, and of humankind, and of destiny of humankind, and the dangers which the humankind has in his time, and on the reason also of the presence of evil in the world. And then he has specific positions about specific problems. There is a growth in him in theoretical thinking, and this theoretical thinking is, in my opinion, on closer inspection, always present, even though it has not been completely written down in the form of theoretical books of political science. But I think that his positions are always at least accompanied by profound, deep meditation on the humankind and of the position of humankind in the world. And then they are adapted to the practical situation. This I would rather think the other way around as regards the origins of determinate positions of Gandhi, also as regards practical decisions or practical problems, specific problems, excuse me. Thank you very much. Anyway, it was really very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gyan. Yes, Kaushal Kishore ji wants to share some of his reflection. Ji, Kaushal ji.
Thank you, Randhir bhai. You have explored it excellently, the violence hidden in misuse of resources with the example of that pencil. That is what I was trying to refer to. In fact, I see him as a source of inspiration, since Arun Gandhi tried his best to explore creativity around anger. And this is something that I sum up his entire life in one sentence, and that is a source of information, a source of inspiration. Arun Gandhi is a source of inspiration to persons like me. And this is all I wanted to sum up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. In fact, Gandhi himself wrote, Gandhi even likened anger to electricity. He said, I have learned through bitter experience of one supreme lesson to conserve my anger, and as heat conserved is transmuted into energy, even so our anger controlled can be transmuted into power, which
Maybe I can
move the world.
Randhir, maybe I can give an example.
Yes, please,
Which
please.
is quite significant if you do it like this, reading the text of Gandhi and then try to interpret or ask the questions. This is the best strategy to understand Arun Gandhi's message for us. And I will try to do it in this particular point called transformation of anger. It's a very, very bright example. Also, Ananta referred to this in the beginning. So Arun remembered his own childhood experience with a double experience of racism, and as an Indian in South Africa. I remember walking to buy candy one Saturday afternoon in a white neighborhood when 3 teenage boys pounced on me. One slapped me across the face, and when I fell, the other 2 started kicking me and laughing. You know, before, he said, I was attacked by white children for not being white enough and black children for not being black. So they ran away before anyone could catch them. I was just 9 years old. You see, that was 1942. The next year, during the Hindu Festival of Lights, my family was in town rejoicing with friends. Heading to one of their homes, I passed a group of young black African men hanging out on the street corner. One of them reached over and whacked me hard across the back with a stick for no reason other than that I was an Indian. I seized with fury and wanted to retaliate. I began weightlifting, and in a similar incident, he put up a rock and almost hit someone to death. So, but in the end, when after many years he was in Mumbai, he received a friend on a ship, and this friend of his was accompanied by a white man from South Africa. A white man grabbed my hand, said he was going to be in Mumbai for almost a week and was eager to see the city. Since I was the first Indian he had encountered, might I be able to help? He introduced himself as Jackie Bassett, a member of parliament in South Africa. I felt the old fury rising in me. His government had insulted me and refused to let me return because he could not return because of his wife to South Africa, so he was in India. I didn't want to help him. I wanted to throw him overboard and get my revenge. You know, even as a grown-up, Arun Gandhi felt this. But by then I'd had some practice in Bapuji's lessons on channeling anger intelligently. So I swallowed hard and decided not to act rashly. I shook hands with him and explained politely that I was a victim of apartheid, forced to be in India because his government wouldn't let my dear wife return with me. I disagree with what your government is doing, I told him. However, you are a guest in the city and I'm going to ensure that you have a pleasant stay. First, I got my good friend settled. Then for the next several days, my wife and I took Mr. and Mrs. Bassett around Mumbai, treating them warmly and showing them the sights. We talked about apartheid and how it had pulled our family apart. On the last day, we said goodbye, and both of them began weeping. You have opened our eyes to the evils of prejudice, Besant said, embracing me. The government I have supported is wrong. We will go back and fight apartheid. As I watched them board the ship, I was dubious that our few days together had really changed his position. I'm not sure how sincere he is, I said to my wife. Let's wait and see what happens. I didn't have to wait long. The moment Besant got back home, he began speaking out against apartheid. He was so ardent in his opposition that the ruling party threw him out and he lost the next election. But he remained steadfast, and his strength, no doubt, helped persuade others. Observing his incredible change confirmed for me the power of Bapuji's philosophy of using anger intelligently. If I had snapped at Besant or thrown him overboard, as I wanted to when we first met, I would have had some momentary satisfaction. I'd have rebuked a government official, and he deserved it. But the end result wouldn't have been satisfying at all. He would have gone back home more convinced than ever that racism was the correct position, and he should stay away from blacks and Indians. And he continues with describing the 1913 situation when Gandhi suspended his campaign and received that authority which gained him partial success and recommended him to be an authority for India. But you know, I just looked for this man in the encyclopedia. Who was this man he met? And if you look for the name, you come across as a man named Jacobus J.P. Besant. And you find him, or let me say on Wikipedia, under the name J.P. Basson or Besant, B-A-S-S-O-N, J.P. J-A-P-I-E, he was called. And he described, he was an individualist. He became a forceful critic of the apartheid government, founded his own parties, lived a long life, and he was expelled from his old government. But you know, if you ask yourself who actually paved the way for the compromise to end apartheid, maybe he was one of those who for years contributed to ending this evil system. Now, referring to the situation in the United States, remember there was a debate, and it is the debate actually which explains this book of Arun Gandhi. The date of the book was 2017, as we know, The Gift. That was actually the term of Donald John Trump. And Arun Gandhi wrote then, in the end of the book, America has fallen into a spiral of identity politics where people live in separate communities, and voting lines are drawn to encourage those distinctions. And then he describes this necessity for a policy of inclusion. True democracy ensures that everyone is not only equal, but embraced and respected. And then he refers to the Holocaust memorials in Berlin. As an example, Berlin has erected potent memorials to the Holocaust and the Jews who were killed out of meaningless hatred. Posters near the main square show how the city was devastated at the end of World War II, with German citizens of all religions left huddling without food and shelter. So many innocent people of varied backgrounds and dreams died or suffered from the fallout of hatred. The memorials should give us hope that we have learned from the past. But have we really changed? Have we learned the lessons of past devastations? And Arun refers to the fact that politicians often have a trick of wrapping truth in a veil of mystery and, destroying truth, actually. So, Arun writes, a Nazi-type hatred of diversity continues in countries around the world, and it is the most dangerous problem we have. We see its vicious results every day in bullying in schools and harassment on the streets and in mass killings and global displacement. Even since World War II, hate has fueled genocides in Cambodia, Rwanda, and Bosnia. Right now, we are witnessing the destruction of Syria. The horror may seem far away, but many of the people who have lost everything are people just like you and me. They want to do meaningful work, to feed their families, to raise their children in safety, to support their communities, to live in peace. Now they are living in refugee camps and wondering why nobody seems to care or wants to help them. Once we recognize that what we have in common rather than what separates us, we approach the world and each other with a different perspective. You might think a current conflict or a recent tragedy doesn't affect you, but today's in-group can be the out-group tomorrow. Once we start dividing people by race, religion, nationality, gender, sexual preference, political view, body type, age, socio-economic status, ability or disability, language, accent, personality type, favorite sports team, there is no end to the distinctions that can be made. Ultimately, we all are outsiders to someone else. And here refers to the scapegoat mechanism, the scapegoating of individuals and groups as one root mechanism of structural violence. And I think this is so rich, this book, gift, that I would recommend you to read all the details from these aspects, not just political, but also ecological, of course, in the spirit of the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, this book could inspire you to new thoughts, to new action. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I request any respected participant who wants to share his or her thought. Please unmute and share. Maybe Miniti Pradhanji, you can begin. Then we'll invite MD Chandarji.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As always, I would like to thank Kristen Bartolf sir for his very enlightening presentation. And I had two simple queries just to get clarified. So, sir was talking about the 5 principles of nonviolence, as you know, that is respect, understanding, acceptance, appreciation, and compassion. In that context, how do one deal with the ego? As we all know that the ego is the roots of the conflicts, the war, the many silent violence, that happens because of that. How do one deal with that? And second thing is whether appreciation should be genuine. I mean, the appreciation has the profound results, whether it should be genuine. Further, that another thing, when Sir was talking about that other two chapters, it is about that 6 type of violence and non-violent parenting. So I want to know, how do one prevent oneself from being the victim of the passive violence? Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes, MD Chandarji.
Namaste. I'm audible?
Yes, you are
Yeah.
audible.
Thank you so much. Doctor's presentation, the book, it helped me to look into more how the anger management. Actually, I represent the Gandhi Peace Foundation, Chennai. Actually, we are talking only to the children, not to any adults. We have a lot of small courses up to the school level. This particular anger management, anger comes from the childhood to even I'm 70 plus. I'm also getting anger. But the wonderful book about this gift of anger, I have not read. But before the start of the program, I watched the one video of Arun Gandhi's video, and whatever doctor said, he spoke in his own words. I heard that he talked in a university in US. So I will try to apply it to the students. Definitely, I will read more and I'll apply to the student level to make them a better citizen. Thank you, Randhir, for giving me an opportunity. Thank you, doctor, and all the allied guests, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I can recall one of his lecture. He was saying, can anger can be transformed into a life-sustaining energy, and ultimately, healing to both the individual and society. And they channelize their anger in courage, creativity, and life-enhancing ways. Courage, creativity, and life-enhancing ways. So we'll discuss this thought. So I request any other friend who want to say some of. Yes, Nagendra ji, please unmute yourself and. Nagendra ji, please unmute. Nagendra ji, I request you to please unmute and.
Hello.
Ji,
Yeah. So I'm audible to everybody present over here.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was just listening the entire discussion from a different perspective, since I'm working in a government staff, and many things come up for discussion in the government staff, and sometimes it goes beyond your limitations, and you get angry in a particular issue when you're discussing. So yeah, I just came to know that you can channelize that anger into creative activity. So it's altogether a new dimension to anger management. So yeah, this will helpful me in my working atmosphere. Also, I was talking with Dr. Ananta in Pondicherry last February, that he could be able to how to manage anger, particularly when you are dealing with plants, particularly, and diseases. So how to manage, how to integrate this, how to bring out this beautiful channelization of anger in plant management. If time comes, we can discuss about this particular dimension, and I have also some exercise and expertise in that way. So I request Ananda Bhai to look after this. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity.
Yes, Ananta Bhai. And I would like to refer a work of Anand Kumar Swami, who wrote a book on leadership, Gandhi's leadership. I am forgetting the title. And there was a chapter on the value of creative tension. And he began that chapter with quotation of F. Esco's Fingergla. It goes like this: the test of the first-rate intelligence is to ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still remain the ability to function. So people like Gandhi welcome tension into their minds. They retain with themselves a sense of creative discontent. So that comes under the connotation of tapasya. And I think Ananta Bhai can bring light on this. Yes, Ananta Bhai?
Yes, hello. Hello, Randhir.
Yes, you are audible.
So kindly tell me. Hello.
Yes, you are audible. Please say.
Yes, please tell me the question.
I think there is a problem of network.
Networking. Yeah, I send my loving greetings to you, please. Yes.
Okay. So any other friend who wants to say it?
May I respond to Minati's question?
Please.
Because somehow this is very essential. I also do not want to respond myself, I just want to refer to Arun's response to Minati's question. It's referring to the concept of Savodaya, actually. And I would like to represent his example he gave, and certainly that might be familiar with you, but in his words, it might be interesting to listen to a great example of women's nonviolent resistance in the economic sphere. Babuji said often that a society cannot be measured by a material yardstick, but only by the depth of its love and respect for all. He often referred to the Sanskrit word Savodaya, which means welfare of all. He believed everyone has the right to decency, happiness, and freedom from want. We are all at least partially motivated by self-interest, and he understood that. But instead of focusing exclusively on ourselves, we would all feel better and worthier if we looked beyond our own needs and desires. Babuji used the word Swaraj to describe the freedom that all people deserve and that we have to help each other achieve. He spoke of it as more than just political freedom. He yearned for, quote, Swaraj for the hungry and spiritually starving millions, unquote. Babuji had a very simple test for deciding whether or not an action was right. He said that whenever you were in doubt, you should, quote, recall the face of the poorest and weakest person whom you have seen and ask yourself if the step you contemplate is going to be of any use to her or him, unquote. Will it help that person gain control of his or her life, dignity or Swaraj? If so, he said, quote, you will find your doubts and yourself melt away, unquote. And now he gives an example in this context. A woman I met many years ago named Ila Bhatt began arranging microloans for women to start small businesses, such as selling fruits and vegetables. Over the years, the program encompassed more than 9 million women in all parts of India. After a while, some of the women told Ms. Bhatt that they were not happy depending on the commercial banks for their microloans. They suggested starting their own cooperative. She kindly explained how difficult that would be. Most of the women were illiterate and couldn't even sign their own names. We want to learn, they told her. So with the women gathered in her living room, she began an impromptu class that lasted all night. The next morning, she gathered the necessary forms and watched proudly as each woman signed her name to the incorporation papers. They dubbed themselves the Self-Employed Women's Association and soon launched the Seva Cooperative Bank. It has since become a flourishing institution that helps poor women become more independent. When the bank began back in 1974, some 4,000 women became members, paying the equivalent of less than $1 to buy a share. Now there are nearly 10,000 active depositors, and in addition to offering savings and credit, Seva provides supportive services like healthcare and legal aid. And in addition, he gives another great example. Indira and Pushpika Freitas, two sisters who live in the Chicago area, started a program designing fabrics and fashion and sending the designs to Mumbai, where women living in slums are taught to tie-dye, block print, and sew. They make beautiful clothes that are then sold through a catalog, and 80% of the profits go back to the women themselves. This program too has expanded tremendously and now supports childcare and health programs for the women who are raising themselves up from conditions of dire poverty. I have known the Freitas family for a long time, and the parents are also devout and socially conscious. Even in a difficult world, we can teach our children what matters and watch with pride as they grow up to make a difference. And I would like to end by reminding all of you and myself also that Gandhi was referring to the 7 social sins in this book, and he added an 8th one, you know. And I would like to read this in the end. It is quite interesting. I just try to find this page for you, just to give you an impression of this 8th one, which was added by Arun. And I hope I find it soon so that I can read it to you just right now. Yes, I found it. Good luck. Bapuji's experiences in the wars, you know, the Boer War, the Second Boer War, the Bambata Rebellion, the Anglo-Zulu War, and so on. Bapuji's experience in the wars convinced him that societies make a huge mistake when they accept a culture of violence as a means of asserting control and authority. True wealth doesn't come from money or dominance, but from appreciating that all people have dignity. The good of the individual is contained in the good of all, Babuji told me. He also understood that much of the violence around the world is the result of what he called the 7 sins of society: wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, commerce without morality, science without humanity, knowledge without character, worship without sacrifice, in brackets not of animals, but of wealth, politics without principles. Recently, Arun said, recently I added an A. So after politics without principles, he added rights without responsibilities. Once we understand that every life matters, we can use that to create change that benefits everyone.
Thank you. I request Maniti Pradhanji to offer a vote of thanks.
Thank you. I, Minati Pradhan, on behalf of Sadhya Sachakra and the Vishwaneedam Center for Asian Blossoming, with immense pleasure, would like to thank our today's Chief Speaker, Dr. Christian Bartolf, for sharing his very valuable and enlightening knowledge with us as always. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I would like to thank our mentor, Professor Kumar Giri, for his presentation today. And I also would like to thank today's discussant, Mr. Kaushal Kishore, for his valuable insight and for his time to educate us. Thank you so much, Kaushal Kishoreji. And as always, I would like to thank Professor Ganluiji for being present with us in our journey. Thank you, sir, so much. I would like to thank Mr. M.D. Chandar and Mr. Nagendra for being active participants in our webinar. I would like to thank all the Facebook users, Facebook platform users and Zoom platform users for being present with us and learning. Thank you all at the bottom of my heart. And please pardon me if I have forgotten anybody's name. I forgot to thank our today's mentor and always convener, Professor Randhir Kumar Gautam, for arranging and executing these things so well. Thank you, Randhir. And thank you all and good night.